Kritikern. No. 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 Kritikern. No.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 61 of The Treat Show. Joffrey, I would like to apologize about the intro repeating over and over and over and over again. I really didn't want to kill the vibe there. Okay, so next time we're going to have some music to look forward to. Okay, sorry, minor improvement. Anyways, how's everybody doing? How has the weekend been? It's weird when we don't have holidays on the Street Show because I feel like lately, I guess every weekend it just feels like there's something going on. Anyways, who's in here? No volume. You can't hear me. That's great. Hold on 1 second, even though you can't hear that. Should I just like sign language? Okay, wait. Tell me if you guys can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Okay. Gosh. Should be working. And I don't know. Thanks, Ty Van Horn. I can hear Kelly. YouTube can hear you okay. Well, guys, I'm sorry. Obviously, we're off to smooth sailing.
Okay, it's working.
Okay.
Aiden needs to maybe refresh or something.
Are doing Godin?
Yeah.
Can you try refreshing? He's not going to be able to hear it.
He needs to refresh.
Oh, thank you guys for hanging in there. I'm sorry. Okay. Old school, it's super good to see you in the chat. Mr. Leal, thank you. Yeah, we're moving on. Thank you. Let me see really fast. I don't want to skip anybody. J Plot Lover, super cool to see you with your baby Jesus flag picture. Joffrey, so nice to see you. Oh, Kelly, we're at the beginning. See, maybe you should come in the middle of the show. Maybe it is more graceful. Maybe not. Just kidding. Okay, so it has been quite a productive week. I don't think we've been sleeping very much because we are trying to get the store open as soon as possible. I think that we're going to do a big grand opening that I'll let Jason announce when the time is right from Dark Horse directly. But I think we're going to try to do like a soft thing over the next couple weeks to kind of just get the vibe going, you know? It has been very hectic, but very exciting to see things coming together. We're doing so much cleaning and like painting and projects at this building. Everybody's been going really hard. Long days. It's awesome. So those who have ordered clones or are waiting on clones or have any clone conversations to have with me, hang in there. And I'm going through the messages. I'm getting back to everybody. Just give me a couple more days and you should hear from me. Okay. So now that we are on episode 61, and I was going to have a guest tonight, as always, we're going to switch it up to a conversation I was having earlier today with Colin from the Dark Horse Grow. And we were just like discussing so many variables. This new facility that we got is, there's all these different lights from years, is just really old models of lights, like bulbs that are like lamps that are brand new 315s. Like it's not the Phantom hoods. I'm trying to remember what they were called. The really old school. Gosh, I can see the logo and I can't think of it. Of course, it was like a triple X, is what we would nickname them. You guys in the chat, catch me up. I'm dropping the ball. So, anyways, there are these 1,000-watt HPS bulbs that are brand new, and these 315s, and there's T8s there, and some of these things. And they switched out to LEDs as well prior to us, and we switched out to LEDs. And this is strange to me because Jason was like, I don't want to throw these away. Like, these are brand new. Even though nobody used these hoods and lights, these used to be like $200 lamps, and now they're $20. And these hoods, nobody would find a use for. And it's really interesting to me to think about HLVD and Fusarium, Pythium, some of these issues that we've had, botrytis. I think they've definitely been present in the plants for a lot longer than they've been discussed for like the mass majority of people, I think. But at the same time, just my opinion, okay, nobody get crazy, is I am not completely sold on these LEDs. And I've talked about this before and I've mentioned it, but back to the triple X's is I was talking about how I used to pull at least a pound from a 1,000-watt triple X, okay? And I'm saying consistently, strains that didn't really pull hefty weights would pull a pound. They would finish dried, cured weed, pound a plant, right? And then when double endings happened, they were like the poppin' thing when Gavitas came out. And that was the other, like their competitors was Phantom. And they had the DEs that were the 1,000 watts, but the plasma fixtures specifically were this new and exciting technology that was supposed to be phenomenal, right? Sorry. And I seen those plants, the same strains, start producing yields that were 3 or 4 pounds a plant. And that was a very significant increase. But with both of these systems, you were combating heat from either of them. It seemed like everybody put in extra AC during this time and kind of overloaded, like extra upon extra AC than what anybody would even estimate as needed use, because these rooms would get so hot with these ballasts, and you put 100 fixtures in a room or more, it was just hot. Even with 315s, once you put like 154 or 100 and whatever 315s in a room, it's hot. But I kind of like the heat. Is the LEDs on the flip now, they are a lot cooler, especially than the first models that originally came out. And they run a lot cooler, and you don't need to run your AC as hefty. But then in the winter, you don't have the heat. Whereas in Colorado, we just get cooler nights and, battle weather throughout our winter months here with, if you don't have heat directly to your rooms or you have small heaters, things like that, is these other lights used to benefit us in that way. And powder mildew specifically, I didn't really see. It's not that you didn't know about it or see it in Colorado ever, but it was so rare. It was very rare that you would see powder mildew in somebody's garden. Granted, Eagle 20, I think, got used by everybody in 2000, I don't know, the 2000s to just too long. So maybe that's why they didn't have powder mildew. But regardless, I think the rooms for the majority of time were not dropping below 60 degrees. And a good rule of thumb with powder mildew to avoid the plant even being susceptible to these spores even being able to produce is keeping your room above that 62 degree marker to stay in the safe zone. There's other factors that can go into this, obviously. But I found that our LEDs, sometimes our rooms will get really cold. Like when that transitional time of the season comes where you're not running heat because it's still like 100 degrees outside. But our nights will drop to like 60 or 70 sometimes, these pretty big swings. And I've seen our rooms get as low as 50. And then I've seen where we'll have these trickle of like obstacles after that. Whether your water is getting too cold, because if your water is going to sit at your room temperature, right? For unless you're adding or adjusting units in the direct reservoir with like a heater or something oscillating things or cooling things, right? It's going to sit at the room temperature. So if the room is 50 degrees and your water is 50 degrees, both are too cold, right? And I don't know, chat, what do you think is the ideal temperature for water? Even on a different side note is, what do you guys think the ideal temperature to be growing with water? Because I don't think, the silent one is so lovely to see you too. Buddy, Kilowatt, sorry. Do you know how much I've missed you in our live chat? I'm going to read your message right now. By far, my best room is a mix of single-ended. Oh, Tark, I'm so happy to see you too. I'm so sorry. Is single-ended HPS with a few 315 CMH mixed in. The nugs that grow under the mix are the superior to DE or LED room. Okay. I love that your name is totally appropriate for this, buddy. Okay, because this is exactly what I'm getting at. Is I really want to take this facility on with a new perspective And I know people have done this and are doing this, buddy. It's so good to see that you're doing this and successful with it, because I have honestly fell in love with CMH, like in every way, shape, and form. It's embarrassing how much I like it, because I would run it in veg, I would run it over my mom's, I would run it in flour, and I would even sick plants under 315s, you get incredible results out of, in comparison to the DEs and some of these things that we're talking about, these LEDs, is not only has the yield decreased, in my experience, is I used to get paid pretty good to actually go into facilities and increase their yields, right? And try to get them these max numbers, because that's what my resume at one point in time I valued more than anything. Is I was like, we can get a really big yield. What's the maximum that we can pull out of this room? And when I look at the technology, though, is I really can't take credit for a lot of these things. is these lights did wondrous things. And when we look at technology, even with outside city lights, we're all running off of HPSs. And if we look at the rule of 7 generations of things to before you get something genetically stable, it's weird to me to think that we've been growing trees, plants outside under HPSs for over 50 years. And these are just thoughts. Okay, these are my stoner thoughts of, I'm like, these plants used to be a lot more resilient. I believe they still had HLVD potentially sitting dormant in them back in 2011, 2012, 2013. The times that nobody was really discussing this, or maybe we didn't have the knowledge that we all are aware of now, is same with like russet mites and some of these things. But I don't know, the plants actually just, I didn't see severe obstacles that I'll see people face now, and including myself, is when I go into a room that has fusarium flaring it'll start flaring at week 3 or so. And if it makes it to week 5, that's fantastic-ish, but at week 5, it'll completely get out of control, the fusarium itself. And then the HLVD, most times they collaborate with one another, or you have them both going on. And you'll see these plants, fusarium is way worse to me than HLVD, honestly. But you'll see these plants at week 5 literally die between week 5 and week 6. Is their hormones and all the plant is working so hard during that time, and with this systemic issue flared, it just can't overcome. What it does is it locks itself completely out, and it just cannot uptake anything you get it or give it. Sometimes you can use a foliar feed to give them an actual foliar feed if you're really trying to get them to live through this. And you might be able to at least harvest something or extract from it prior to the whole entire thing just being ruined. But usually once it flares, there's no going back. So when I look at the lighting again from back then, is fusarium, I didn't start really fixing grows with that were dying, complete rooms were dying overnight, until about 2016, 2017. So when I think back on that time, is when I was growing with Harmony extracts. Is Harmony started with a crappy building, just like we all did with triple X's, and then they upgraded to DEs at their newer facility. And immediately, they had hung the lights too low for what these specs of what these guys were selling. I think in the beginning was usually a 4 foot to 6 foot off of your plant canopy of the 1,000 watts. And it was just too much. It really was. Whether it was too many lights or just oversaturation, these plants would fry. So again, there's other factors that can go into that. But that's when I first saw fusarium really killing an entire room. It's not just like one plant or a couple of things here and there that are off. Is really taking out just full gardens, full commercial grows, one room at a time. And I feel like it was really scary. It was really scary, really intimidating thing. But it's something now that I've worked with so much, and I've seen in so many facilities throughout the years since then, that when I look at the intensity of the lights that we're talking about and the actual spectrum, it's almost as though at Rare Dankness we had we had our lights 14 foot minimum off of our canopy. It doesn't look like that in the pictures, but they were so far off of the canopy. And if you have 30-foot ceilings, this is a working system. You're like, yes, I've got a lot of wiggle room. But if you're growing in your garage or a standard house or something, like, it's too much. It's just too much. But they produced a great yield. If they did well, they would produce this great yield. It seemed like that's when things aesthetically started going in that direction with the market, where people would notice these white trichomes and things like that. It was whatever. So then we go to LEDs, right? And LEDs is when my job, I got super, super busy. It was at the beginning of COVID, and I got really busy where I had to decline a lot of garden jobs because I got too many at the same time of commercial grows just struggling and combating with HLVD and Fusarium specifically. And they'd have insects and stuff like that. Like I said, there's other compounds that once you put all these things together, but I think lighting is something that really gets, it's like, as a salesperson, I could see selling LEDs to somebody and it being awesome. You're like, you're going to save on your utility bill. All these like pros are here. They're easier to clean. They're easier to raise and lower, lighter as a whole. Some of these things, you can do the replacement bars instead of a whole unit. Cool things, I guess. But I think as a whole, I have not, if I'm just being completely honest, is I've seen my yields of every strain. It doesn't matter how long, or it does. I've grown these strains for 10 plus years, had the same cuts, the same everything, and under all of these different spectrums. And I've seen these weights consistently where you know what they're going to yield in hash. You know what they're going to yield as a finished product. You know if you run it a little bit longer or some of these other factors, you just know them. And it's like with the LEDs, I've just seen these numbers get sliced. Like I'm talking sliced, annihilated. THC potency, I've seen dramatically where I'll go through things, like I said, and try to eliminate what could be other causes. Like maybe you have lower THC potency or overall potency because you're harvesting when that plant's not quite ready. Maybe it needs a couple more weeks. And then you would see that number increase as the plant finishes, right? But I guess there could be a couple other ones as well. If you have insects, russets specifically, just annihilate your trichomes. I don't know, just things like that, sure. But when you see actual testing result over years now, where you're like, why does this strain test actually, you guys hear my 17% ranges on people lying about testing. But if we really look through all the data and somebody was being as honest and straightforward as they could with these results, the potency is lower. And I you guys know that I don't personally really care about potency, but potency to me is also a reflection of how healthy your plant is. Like if it's eating right, if it's flushing right, all those things. So anyways, I've seen the potency of a lot of strains decline, and it could be like just 6% or 10%, but those are huge numbers. And then when I look at these yields, I'm like, you're yielding half a pound to a pound to a pound and a half. If I know people bullshit people all the time with this stuff, but it's like, that's really consistently what I'm seeing. Yes, strains vary. Yes, you can get a little bit more than that, but it really is disappointing versus like the CMH that we were talking about, Mr. Kilowatt, is I feel like my 315s would dump. I would still get 3 pounds under a fucking 315, and that's 315 watts. I mean, for reals, that is nothing. And they have all this heat and they cool though. I don't know. They're small units. I really like them. So anyways, I don't know if you guys have personally seen anything like this, or if you completely disagree with me, honestly tell me, and tell me your great successes with LEDs. Cause now I've worked with so many different types and all the way back from 2015 with Heliospectra at Pink House to, Lux and Grower's Choice, and so many of the newer lighting systems. But I've been really wanting to go back to a completely different, a mixed spectrum, exactly what you're talking about, of I would really like to do the 315s, and I would honestly even go back to a triple X and with 315s on a different grid like that. And I think even if you could use some of these like track systems that you could actually have the lighting fixtures mobile a lot easier than maybe what it used to be a couple years ago, is you could have way less lights. And I almost believe that as well, is all the LEDs lights that I see hung, is there all these 4x4 fixtures and they're all touching each other, just directly next to each other on top of these plants, like really slam down close to these plants, just when I walk rows and see what's going down. And I think it's too much. is even if you were to keep the LED spectrum, is I'm like, shouldn't these be on a tracking system, or shouldn't there be a lot more spacing where all of those other fixtures that we're talking about had so much light casting out and you were raising them kind of like high above your canopy and then getting that casting versus triple X, you didn't slam your plant into a triple X. Like if you were like slacking off and whatever, maybe it grows into your triple X, but I don't know. I just see these things that are making me, I'm like, if we save more money in theory on our utility bill, like a couple $100, it's nothing crazy, is versus our yield is down 75%, like 50%, 35%. I'm like, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, and why is this a fad? If I was working for these lighting companies, or if I was incentivized in all these different ways, hell yeah, I'd sell these lights. Hell yeah, I'd tell you that I've ran them for years and your plants are going to be great. But now I really want to see people kind of remove this, I don't know if it's just like similar thinking or this fad, or if they really do have great results. I'm not saying I haven't had great rooms with LEDs. I definitely have. We do it now. But I'm just saying that the real value in why I grow, like why I want to see these plants get pushed to their full potential, like what I want them to represent when they're finished products. The appearance of the weed is different now. The trichomes are different now. The potency is different now. The diseases are reacting different now. The insects, I have never seen, people may talk shit on Colorado all the time with insects and powder mildew and all this shit. But the thing is, Colorado used to have some of the most fire fucking weed ever. And I don't care who bashes on that, okay? And it's way better than Cali back in the day, I'm just saying. But I think that if you put these time frames, I'm just kidding. If you put these time frames together, though, it was when the industry got saturated with a whole different type of selling of shit and sales and marketing and branding versus when we were all growing before. It's amazing to me because it was just simple systems. They were lights that plants have grown under for 50 plus years, and it was working. It was working. Now we're switching all this shit up, and I see where these gardens in Colorado have more issues than I've ever seen in my whole time living here, growing up here, like fixing gardens. It's hundreds of gardens I've fixed and worked in over this time frame of home grows, commercial grows, all this stuff. And consistently in the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen where russets are really out of control for a lot of people, spider mites, thrips, fungus gnats, root aphids, things that I was like, your plant used to be a hell of a lot more resilient, I believe, under these 315s, under these triple X's, under even DEs. Like your stalk, when your stalks are that massive, a root aphid can't penetrate your plant. Or when your medium is actually uptaking, there's nothing, powder mildew doesn't have these opportune moments to thrive. Or same with insects, is even in soil blends and all these things that, I don't know, I'm seeing the quality of shit go a different direction, and I almost feel frustrated that I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we all doing this? I'm not saying you guys, but commercially, I see it in a lot of facilities, and it's just like, oh, this is something I want to brainstorm. It's same with the like water and okay, now let's read the water temperatures while we say this. DP907, shout out to you. And thank you, Future Cannabis Project. And everybody needs to go follow DP907 and the Future Cannabis Project channel, okay? I need to post it up here, DP. I'm sorry. I need to step it up. Okay, so left field, 69 degrees. Targ, 68 degrees. The silent one, 68 to 74. Joseph Anthony, 75. Joseph Anthony, 65 flower. Like all these. the silent one. CMH produces so much more par per watt. Yes. Wait, the silent one, due to the spectrum. Yes, you're absolutely right. You are though. And this is strange, but when I was doing hash under 315s, is the terpene content that I seen under 315s compared to DEs was amazing. Like absolutely amazing in comparison. Say it was like 3 to 4%, which is a lot when we're talking about even things that wouldn't surface under a DE, you would see under the 315s. And I found that very intriguing as well. I think this is when we're actually dialing in the plant's full potential. Like when they say, some growers will be like, I'm not into the science of growing. I'm into just looking at my plant and engaging with my plant, and that's all I need. And there's a truth and beauty to that when we're seeing these things change is, I just think it's weird. I think we're getting sold on a whole bunch of shit that, anyways, just gotta keep it simple sometimes. If it works, it works. But you guys are absolutely correct on the water temperature. I wouldn't even disagree with you at all. I think that range, the silent one, is beautiful, and you guys obviously nailed the temperatures the same. I think that's the perfect range. At 74, you're still not getting too hot. They like it. It's like once you start going beyond that, it's getting where you're like gonna dabble with funky waters. And then the 68, you're staying away from anything getting funky. They are happy. It's warm enough. You'll keep your genetics actually more resilient, and you won't get those color variations. I know people used to talk about doing this for like fun and enhancing purple strains and things like that, where they would drop the temperature in the water. The thing is if anybody's had a fucked up growing situation, you can call it that you did it for fun or on purpose or not, is your plants definitely take a hit when you feed them cold fucking water. Like you will see things, not just powder mildew, you'll see it start locking out, and the stalks get so red and so discolored and so purple. And it's really that you figure it can't pull through its little veins, you know? It's too fucking cold. But you guys just keep on crushing out there. Joseph Anthony, the silent one, and Tark, left field. God, left field. Hey, yo. I'm going to make a game one day. I'm going to make a game. I've figured it out. I'm going to get Dark Horse in on this because he's really good at games. I'm going to make a game where we do all of the information of all the things that we need to know as growers shared amongst each other. And you got to guess, we got to guess what the range is or whatever. We're going to do a cool guessing game. But Swan, so lovely to see you. Hippie Zombie, I've had my best grows with my CMH, LED, and flower. I love Hippie Zombie that you're doing it as well with a mixed spectrum. I'm so sold on it. I'm so fucking sold on it. And those two together specifically I think if you really did a grid, I'm not sure how yours is. And I'm sure you're going to be like, this is exactly what I'm doing, or this is not. But I think if you did a grid where you almost had the DEs like super high up, like very high, and then you dropped your 315s obviously a little bit lower, but you almost had them, I would say like, I don't know, maybe like 6 feet apart. And I think, and maybe not directly, like I said, this sounds stupid to people when I'm like, I want to put my lights slightly into my aisle or slightly into the wall more than directly evenly over the tray. It doesn't make sense to like really anybody. But I think if you could almost play with this where it wouldn't shadow the other, but you really could get both, I think the plants would just love it. I did see so many positives with the Ds, and like I said, that resilience and the heat is like, I did see great results come out of these plants, and the yield was significantly higher consistently across the board of all the strains versus my 315s by themselves. But you can still, like I said, dump with 315s. But yeah, I love that you guys are doing both. I would love to see what you're working with. Hippie Zombie, a 10K CMH bulb, great for last 14 days of flower with high UVB. Yeah, I love that too. I think there's so many things that are amazing with lighting now that you can play with, or that you have been able to play with in the last 10 years that we didn't spend enough time. That's what I mean, is I feel like the next guy was out to hustle. It's like there wasn't enough time to really take in all the data from, at least commercially, is everybody was just switching so fast. If you think about it, switching your lights every 5 years is too fucking fast. It's a super expensive investment. And I know it's great. I say, for all these other people working in lighting, but as a cultivation facility, you're like, it's already expensive to replace the lamps. So usually that's when they just replace all the fixtures. And you're like, I don't know. There's got to be something better. Let's see, Joseph Anthony. I don't even really check my water temperature in the wintertime. I will microwave some water and put it in the cold water to warm it up. I love that, Joseph. So you probably honestly are able to just feel with your hands. I think that is the best rule of thumb as well, though, is when you walk into a grow room, gosh, I'm struggling extra hard tonight, is when it feels good to you, or if it feels chilly, or if it feels too hot, or if you're stagnant, gosh, I just remembered something right when I said that. I got to turn this fan on. Sorry. is when you're stagnant, I feel that they feel the same way. Or sometimes I'll put my hands without checking my par meters, right? I'll put my hand over the canopy and you really can feel the heat. And you're just like, oh, this is a little, ugh. Or you can't feel shit. And you're like, maybe I should bring them down. I don't know. I like Joseph Anthony that you say that, and that you'll go through and microwave it. Some people will just be like, fuck it. And that's where, like, I used to be that person with pH is when you're growing in soil, you can have a very different pH range because you have a buffer of the soil, right? So that's different. But if you're growing hydro, you can't really have a huge range. You can have a range, but I don't know, our water comes out sometimes in the wintertime all the way in the 8s. And consistently like 7.6, 7.7. So that's like too high, right? I like to run 5.8 to 6. That's like my favorite. After you go 6.2 or above, you start taking in trace elements. So because with hydro, you're feeding directly and you're only giving them exactly what you want to give them every feed, I think that, damn it, just totally lost my train of thought. I'll come back to it. I'll remember it right now. I don't remember. Sorry, guys. This blood was good tonight. I'm really sorry. Kelly, people used to move grows and start new more in the old days. Yeah, you're right, Kelly. Even my attorney and I were talking about that recently, is the transition that happened even in the recent years of like 2018 to, let's just say 2020, a lot of companies were expanding and getting way bigger grows or putting a lot of money into refinishing their current situations. And they were still selling licenses for a very high amount in Colorado, like very high. I would say an average license for a retail store without a grow is $5 million. If you started tacking on grows, you'd see numbers all the way up to like $20 million and things like that. It's crazy. But now he said that most of their things that they're seeing are a lot of people surrendering licenses or putting their things onto the market, and that they're rent. This is crazy. Something that people I don't think would ever think about. I would never have thought about this. Is these landlords locked in a lot of these people in Colorado when it first started, and it was really illegal, like real illegal to do it, but we had medical. It was hard to find landlords that would lease to you even though you were a legal business. So these guys would let these guys come in. You attach the license to the building. You can't buy the building, but you can't transfer the license, right? And especially when there was a moratorium on in the state or Denver or whatever area, which was the state for a long time, you can't transfer them. So what these landlords did is when their leases would end, say they were 3 years or 5 years in the beginning, they would end and they would mark up these rents. Some of the numbers I've heard is really sad. So say for a 4,000 square foot facility, say they get in for $3,000 a month. This is like 10 plus years ago. It's just a normal shithole facility. They put all this money into, build it out, have the license attached to it, and then the landlord finds this out and goes through and says, okay, your rent is going to be $40,000 a month. So you're going to go from $3,000 to $40,000 a month on this new lease. And there's nothing that you can do. You can't transfer your license. You can't sell your business. You can't, because you don't want to give away your business, right? Just because the landlord's an asshole. And so I started finding out that this was a common thing that was happening in Colorado. A lot of people were thinking businesses were going out of business when they were really surrendering their license because of their leases. And I think that's something that really doesn't get addressed, that is really sad. And I hope for these other states that are legalizing or have been legalized, is I really hope that that's something that you look out for with your investors or partners or anything, is to protect yourself. Is I would definitely lock yourself in at a longer leases rate or with parameters to this. I don't know, because they will get you. Somebody was telling me all the way for this one grow is my dream grow. I won't say. It's in Aspen, Colorado, though. And it's like absolutely gorgeous. The reason I say this is it really stood out to me in the very beginning. It was the most beautiful place I've ever seen. I was like, I just want to work there so bad one day. And it was this little pebble, old, it was built in like the 1700s. It looked like a shitty, awesome cabin from like Yellowstone built out of rock. You know, it's like something like that. And 7,700 square foot. It wasn't like that big. And you figure that's not all canopy, right? So pretty small, honestly. And they started with a pretty standard rate. And then their rent got all the way up to like almost $100,000 a month. And when you look at these places, they're already, you know, pretty expensive to operate monthly. I would say $60,000 to $100,000 a month is pretty standard for most of these guys in overhead. And so it's like when you tack on, just sad. It's just sad. Back to the lights. Back to the water. Oh, can't believe I forgot what I was saying. It's been a while since I've done that completely. But Kelly, I appreciate you saying that because it really is a thing. The silent one. What's crazy to me is Double Ended had been around in the aquarium industry for years, but took forever to make it to horticulture. Really, the silent one? Do you have a fish tank? Do you have an aquarium? Because I'm gonna be so jealous. It's always been my dream to have a saltwater tank. I did a lot of research back in the day on it. I was really like obsessed for a couple months and was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I was like, I'm gonna get jellyfish. And I found out that they have to circulate with these pumps and that they can get tangled. And then I wanted an octopus and I found out that they could run away and just all kinds of things. And I was like, can you have a shark? That seems easier at this point. I don't know. But seriously, the silent one, if you have a fish tank, aquarium, you got to send us pictures because I am so jealous. And you got to tell us all your fish's names. Even the plants, just the plants alone. All the coral and it's my dream. I want it so bad. I told Jason that I'd like to put my feminine touches on the commercial grow at the new spot. And I was like, do you mind if I put a jellyfish aquarium in the middle of the entrance to the cultivation facility? Nobody will really see this except for the people working there occasionally, but it would be completely satisfying. Yes. THC Garage, how are you doing? How's the week going? That's also, sorry, I didn't mean to skip over that. I don't know why I'm so high. I think I just might be sleepy. I wonder how long in the aquarium though industry, I didn't mean to skip over this, had you used it, this island one then before? Had you were you like, I should try this with my plants? Or did you see things that you liked about them even before us little weed people could catch up to it? Hippie Zombie, the plasma light, $6,000 a light. Don't think many have it and needs 36-inch overhead. Yeah, Hippie Zombie, the plasma lights is the thing that we got lucky on. And I only say this because of these companies. They got lucky on, or they branded themselves right. Is Gavita first came out, and Rare Dankness and Scott Reach were their very first weed grow ever to put their fixtures in. And so obviously when you're helping each other at like scales like that or things like that, there was just a lot of advantages as far as pricing and things like that for each other, you know, like investing, I guess, in these brandings and things. But I will say that a lot of these guys aren't paying the price that you see online either. Heliospectra is one of the most expensive I've seen. I was trying to remember Harmony Extracts actually too. Is the DEs that we got, I could find pictures. I think they were the Phantoms. I think they were the Phantoms, and I think they were only, I think it was 1,600 a fixture. I'm not saying that's like cheap, but I think that's about what they were. Correct me, Hippie Zombie, if I'm wrong though. But the Heliospectras, those were the most expensive I'd seen, and those were 4,500 a unit, and they were pretty small. Like, I mean, you would probably need 2 of these lights per 4x8 tray, versus the DEs and some of these things. You don't need as many. At Weird Ignis, I can't remember the count we had. I have it written down somewhere. It was like, I don't think it was quite 1,000, but it might. I think it was thousands for so. I don't know. I think he got rid of a lot. We took down a lot, but it was a lot of fucking lights. These Guerrero Grows, is lovely to see you too. I hope that your garden. How's your garden going? How's your gardening going? Have you done any cool interviews lately? Because everybody needs to check out the Guerrero Grows shows too, because I think he's been doing some cool interviews. Kelly, they have an amazing season simulation and such for aquarium lights. Really? Gosh, Kelly, thank you. The silent one, you guys are getting crazy. And you can make any spectrum you want on the higher end LEDs as you control every channel of the light in spectrum. So that's the silent one. Tell me, have you guys used these lighting, like exactly what you're talking about? Things that you can adjust these spectrums. The reason I keep talking about the Heliospectras is I'll put up pictures sometime to show you, is you could customize absolutely every aspect of this fucking spectrum. And that was what they were selling this off of as their main thing, is you could create exactly what the sun does. Like when they're cloud coverage and, I don't know, sunrise, sunset, all these different things. And the truth is, I saw these plants get completely fucked up by, maybe there wasn't enough like R&D, honestly, or time, again, with working directly with these strains in the same environment for long enough. Because I don't want to like say, maybe it could work fantastic. But in the particular situation and circumstance I saw, it did not work well, because people were altering the spectrum so often and so frequently that I feel it wasn't, I don't know. Obviously you could have done this better. They were fucking with it every day. And so I just watched the plants discolor completely. It was almost like if you were feeding your plant too hot of a mix or something, is they really started frying, like having this very, or if you weren't feeding your plant enough, should I say? I don't know, but they almost had that like burnt look. Have you guys seen that? Kelly, they have the software program to mimic of any lighting for the coral growers. Are you serious, Kelly? Well, maybe with all this shit, then maybe I need to get into this game. I do want an aquarium after this podcast, though. I really do. I let it go. I have even the aquarium book for dummies, and I might have to whip that bad boy out tonight. Let's see. Hippie Zombie. LED don't do UVB very well. It kind of kills diodes fast. Most LEDs are UVA, and that's not as good. Hippie Zombie, you should come on the show sometime and talk about this. I like that you're very knowledgeable about this, and you should come on with our kilowatt, buddy, because I feel, and all you guys, honestly, you guys are very knowledgeable about this, because I think that was something as well with the Ds, is they offer different lamps, obviously. Like you could pull more of that blue spectrum, you could pull more of the red, you could switch out, you could grid your room, like checkerboard your room. Some of these things I did see positive results from. Again, too short-lived. Let's see. Yeah, they really should use that on wheat though. That, like, God, you should go patent and get on this, okay? Because you should just go take one of your light fixtures, hit up Alibaba.com, problem solved. I'll be your first customer. I have 180 gig and a 90 gig with an SPS corals in front room. Gallon. Sorry. Don't know why I thought that. 180 gallon? Are you fucking serious? I saw that you can have a shark at 200 gallons. That is a big tank. That is a big tank. I wanted the white tip and black tip reef sharks. I thought those would be cool at a grow too, but that's a lot of water. There's a lot of water. You got like a hot tub that is probably extremely high maintenance. God, I am so impressed this island one. I really am. That is just so freaking cool. The plants in all these, I can never say the word, just like all the other words I try to say. Is it anemones? Anemones? I don't know. I like it. I like what they're putting down. Oh, PJ, thank you for noticing. Okay, thank you so much. So these are my cow print nails. I don't know if you can see. Let me go a little bit closer. Yeah. Thank you for noticing, though. I really do appreciate it. I felt like I was getting my moo cow on, my little farmer Betty this week. Oh, yeah. Sorry. PJ, thanks for noticing again. Ecotech. Yes. 750 bucks this silent one. Gosh, Kelly and you are as a next level. Seems the mix is HPS and LED. One kooky. That's cute. Yeah, I think I would like to talk to my dad and Jason about well, we've kind of already talked about this together, but if we could make a system where you could actually take down the lights to clean them and you could raise and lower them. Now they have so much control, like so many different control options for so inexpensive compared to prior when we've done this. It's been a nightmare. And so, or you have to like manually do it yourself and it's just heavy and whatever. But I think if we can actually take your guys' creative brilliance and we could, I'd like to do 315s in veg for sure, but I would still like to slowly introduce a couple of DEs, depending on like if that plant is 4 to 5 weeks, 6 weeks into veg, is when we'd slowly start introducing that spectrum, but not crazy. And then have almost like the flip, maybe a couple more DEs than the 315s, but if they were all, on this adjustable system, I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I want to see the plans. We've done things like this in the past years ago, though. It's almost out. It's just too outdated of what we're specifically talking about. But I think this would be something that if I saw results that I'm hoping to see, I'm going to be pulling all these lights out of the trash and I'm going to be selling them to everybody. Just kidding. The silent one. Yes, I swear by Ecotech, but I've seen great corals grown under cheap Viper, Spectras, and Mars. Yes, they do both aquarium lights and horticulture. Gosh, the silent one, you really do know a lot. Do you have corals? I should send you a mermaid for your tank. Yep. This one kooky, but still strain dependent. I love that you say that as well. I love that you say this 100%. So I was also thinking, and Jason was thinking with me, is what if we had at the new facility as well a room that was just for hazes or your long running ladies, and if we had more like your bread and butter room, or when I say that, they're rooms that they're the strains that a lot of people tend to like, but they're about 9 to 10 week strains. They're not very long. Some strains honestly do finish around 8 weeks. It's crazy to me, but it happens. So I'm like, we could use one room for that. We could use one room for cushions. We could go back. I know people do this, but how long do they stay doing it? So I was like, let's do this, because it would be just great if we made our perpetual that way and specified the mediums to this. Is I'm a firm believer that certain strains do better than others in certain mediums. I've grown things that we've talked about this, like Larry OG or any of the OGs that are just like finicky, weird, angry, even diesel, like some of these strains, Ghost, if you put them in soil, I would still lighten the density of my soil and I would still feed like a light mix on top of it. Yeah. Probably more frequently than once a week, but low. Versus some of these newer strains I've seen really crush hydro where they need that extra pep or they need that moisture versus the OGs and shit. They like that dry down period. They like that, that dry back. I think it would be really cool to take the spectrums, kind of customize it. I say that because, again, OGs sometimes really aren't crazy if you have a really intense DE room. I think if they're really healthy and vigorous, they can crush. But I think if they're just really finicky, like some grows, they're finicky climates. And so, yeah, I think it'd be cool to just like really customize these things, hone in a little bit on all these different parts, but keep it simple. It sounds so extravagant, but it's really going backwards. I mean, I really hate to be an advocate for this, but I do feel like I'm going backwards in a lot of ways, even growing. Like I was like, mediums is, I was thinking about this even with cocoa. I switched from soil because soil's quality got a little wonky throughout the years. Not saying everything, but it's hard to get consistent batches. And then the density of a lot of these soils changed where it would get more compact every watering time. Say by the 6th or 7th time, it would just be too dense in the pot where the pot wasn't able to breathe or whatever was going on. But then if you introduce a little bit of cocoa, I like cocoa instead of perlite personally, but the drainage holes and like the unevenness that you can get, I found from perlite, this is just like how like, this is like stupid stuff as well. You guys probably don't care. But if you do like a light splash of perlite with the big perlite pieces though, sometimes you'll get weird drainage pockets in your actual planter. Versus if you use a really small additional perlite, then you get the draining evenly throughout and it really can be fantastic. But I would rather use a different thing besides perlite. Is the cocoa holds more moisture, obviously, than perlite. It's lighter than a soil. So sometimes I find that if you blend them together, also succulents. This is crazy, or not orchids. Orchids have almost like a mulch. You know, you guys are gardeners out there. I know Kim Painter's on here. It's like almost like a mulch looking thing, like bark. And I was thinking if you put the very bottom of your plant with this bark just to create that drainage, and then you did do the cocoa with your soil, I think it could just be like another great situation. I'm not sure though, but I do want to try it with a couple of specific strains that I just don't like how these mediums, even my cocoa, that's why I like the Rockwool and I like to keep it on top of the surface to keep the root ball actually protected from being rotted or like puddled or muddled or whatever you want to call it, is when everything starts sinking and compressing. It's just that root ball becomes more and more susceptible to other shit the more that happens during its like night cycle most times, but it really can just become a problem. Versus if you keep it out of the medium in the Rockwool, it keeps it sterile and drying out, but then you got to be like cautious on the flip where you don't want that Rockwool block getting dry. I don't know. You're also manipulating the way that the plant is going to grow by having it on top of there versus inside of it, where you're going to get more like vertical growing than a horizontal kind of bush. Gerhardt, speaking of that, sorry. I don't know why I just thought of this, but Gerhardt, I am so excited to talk to you, and I am excited that you are in the chat. I was just thinking about a guy that cares about all the details, and he is one as well. Just like you guys. Let's see. Val Bundy, I always respect you. I'm so grateful that you're in the chat. I always look forward. You make me very happy with your nice, kind words and your support. Thank you. Triple X Hood, spread the light out really even. Silent one. You just know. You just get it. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, it's like when you get that spectrum spread out, the reason I was so in love with it is it's not direct light and it's not intense, and you can raise it up and you can cover a very nice, even canopy. And you can use less lights. I think to me, we're going backwards. This is nothing to do necessarily with spectrums. There's a lot of spectrum alterations going down and options out there. But to me, the fixtures are like an iPhone. It's like they have been the same for way too long. It's like, why is the fixture big still? Why is the fixture big? The fixture to me is, I'm like, these should be small. These should be like magnetized where like you don't, like, people are cleaning this shit. You're supposed to clean this shit every run. Nobody does because they're either mounted to something as high as possible, like where there's no gap to clean, or lower or raise, or whatever you're trying to do. It's just a pain in the ass. It's like, why don't they make these things where it's just easy and it's just tiny and it does refract and it does just be so cool. You know, if people would just switch it up. Let's just switch it up. I miss the triple X's. The silent one, you're going to make me like go hang all these up. And I would be like, Jason, I'm so sorry, but I can't sleep at night. Okay. Kelly, you have my admiration, Silent. We are going to need a hobbyist corals to fix the die-off someday. Oh, see, you guys, it's so true, though. It is so true. We're actually getting ready to go to Roatan, Honduras, and my parents actually have been going there for a long time, and they're building a house out there to live at full-time. And so we're taking a family trip on Saturday. I'm super excited. But the reefs there, it's next to Belize, and the coral reefs there are just phenomenal. For those that even if you can't scuba dive, you should really go there for snorkeling, because you can really just go off of the water and you can see all these just beautiful like starfish and I mean just everything. It looks like this mystical wonderland. Dolphins, like just cool shit everywhere. And it's because nobody's like racing, I think, to Roatan, Honduras versus Hawaii. And when we do go to like Waikiki in Hawaii, is that all the coral reefs is so devastating. Is our favorite hotel that we stay at overlooks the ocean in the front, and all the coral reefs where everybody hangs out are just dead. They're completely annihilated for probably a mile or more out. And it's just so sad when you see these things. But when you factor in, this is what I'm talking about, pH and buffers and all of these things, is when you have ladies and gentlemen going out there with all of our colognes and perfumes or jewelry or lotions and sunscreen, is the pH levels, these are dramatically different, like dramatically different from one another. And these coatings, and just obviously people stepping on shit isn't cool either. But I think when you look at how the ocean is supposed to filter and buffer itself out to protect these things, and I don't know, it's just sad when you do have, it's mixed feelings. I always love looking at these things and going out snorkeling and checking everything out, but I do really consciously try to like not wash my hair with stuff that day or not wear anything, because I think it is such a gift that we have these spaces, but it is very devastating to see. I don't know. I wish there was more. I know they're making like coral reef safe sunscreens and stuff like that, but it's one of those things that we always say you got to work as a whole unit to, save it all. But the silent one, I think Kelly's got a plan for you that is great. We could start the silent one. We'll start one on the show where we get a nonprofit or something, donations going for the silent one to be the reef saver. Yes. JLo, I think a lot of numbers from the LED is due to tank growers who have reflective materials close by, versus an LED in a 20 by 20 foot room. In the middle, there is nothing to reflect, if that makes sense. That is such a good thing to point out. But I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. That would play a huge part in that. When you have these small spaces, I mean, where it really is using every square foot part. Every part of this building is working with you versus kind of against you. We even have dark pockets. Like, that's the thing. When our plants are past week 3, even if you're defoliating, even if you're going hard, all these different things, is the canopy will get so big, or the plants will get so big by the time they're finishing, that there's definitely overcast and there's definitely dark pockets. And maybe that is why I'm just like, maybe if you did have the like sidewall lighting, I wouldn't be feeling this way. And maybe the way it would be showing me a little different. It's just, it is more commercial though. I am glad that you said that because LEDs do have a lot of pros though. I have just only talked shit, but the clone strips, fucking phenomenal. Like phenomenal. I've done a bedroom and an attic if you guys haven't seen. And I feel like you can use those for supplemental lighting. Those that have houseplants in the winter that they want to put them under. Cheap, amazing, easy to use. They daisy chain together. You can clean them really nicely. And I've seen the plants completely thrive under them. Like when we're talking veg and clones young plants, that specific spectrum though, it's almost like held back. I feel like it's so low, but they just do great. Versus, I just in the flower room specifically, I think the most I've ever yielded from any LED was 3 pounds, like the most though. And it was a really big plant. And I'm talking finished product, like I said, not wet, but it's like, that's like a strain though that would have yielded more. It was Mac 1 from Capulator, and that strain does dump weight though. Like, I mean, it does. That anybody that's grown it, I feel like it is good for like a little hefty yield. It's dense. It's all those things, but I don't know. You guys tell me what you think once again. Tell me what you think. Okay, sorry. I had to try to multitask. I love growing coral. It has taught me a lot about light and water chemistry that I would have never learned from cannabis. See the silent one? Come on and teach us some shit. You got to do it because I can't even imagine how deep you do get with that. One of the owners I used to work for a long, long time ago, he had a really big saltwater tank at his house, and he like got really into that's what got me into wanting to do this. Is I started like painting fish and like being like, oh, if I can't have a tank, is after I saw his, because he was teaching me even the water, the silent one, you got to tell us about this, is the tank that they actually control the big tank off of, almost like it's like little reservoir on the side, that's where they would actually introduce like the salt and raise or lower the pH. And if they were getting new fish, the fish had to quarantine separate from both of those tanks and then slowly get water from this tank into that tank. And it just seemed like such a complex system, but so beautiful. It just is so intriguing because I can't imagine how challenging it really is. And when you have something so radiant and gorgeous and expensive, fucking expensive, yeah, that's just awesome. Bill Sid, look at you. I'm so excited to see you in here. Keeper's Garden, good evening, J-Lo. Good evening to you, Keepers. It's lovely to see you as well. Kelly, growing stuff and nurturing it is so good for you. That is so true. I think is absolutely so true. Buzz Swan, keep it simple, smarty. Shooters, grow and show. I get best results using metal halide mixed with LED. Shooters, that's a good little throw. I like that. Metal halide is another. That's a great combination, I feel, as well, and appropriate for a lot of spaces. If you could be working with a tight area as well to get the most out of it, that would be a good flip of a situation. I just want to see all your guys' pictures. I want you guys to come and do a little podcast, because I just think it really takes a brave and passionate grower to be able to come up with what you guys have already been implementing and doing and noticing, and to really care like that and be open to trying new things. That's the thing too. It's like to actually use all these technologies and try them as they change out. And I think that's good as well. It does teach you a lot, I think, or show us a lot. Well, you guys are little smarty pants. Oh, let's see. First thing to lock out due to the cold is phosphorus. The silent one. This is around 60 degrees. This is what I'm talking about with this game. The silent one. If you have anything that you would like to put into this game, or if you would like to discuss this game, You're the perfect person because these are the things I'm talking about to pointing out. That is an amazing thing that you pointed out because phosphorus is so important, obviously, but it can be so damaging so easily in general compared to a lot of the other elements that we're working with. In I don't know. I am grateful that you said that. In the 60 degrees, I feel there's a lot of people that don't know that water can hurt him if it's too chilly willy, you know? Oh, let's see. THC, you're famous. THC Garage, Keeper's Garden. You guys, chat is just incredible. Okay, the silent one. I get about the same weight as I did from HBS, but it took a while to get there, and changes needed to be made with the FERTs, etc. Yeah, that's the thing. The silent one is like, I definitely agree with that. Is like, that's why I can't say it's like not a working system or bad or anything. Is like irrigation and some of like the feedings as far as EC and even dimming your lights. Okay, that's one that I completely skipped over, but raising your lights, dimming your lights, lowering your lights, and having them run lower is, I think there's a lot of things that do go into that and that you can play with. And don't get me wrong, I do think that you can be successful with LEDs all day, every day. We currently operate and grow for the last, I don't know, Jason's been growing with Grower's Choice he had 315s before NDEs and everything that we listed off. So he's been growing with the Grower's Choice though, I think for 2 or 3 years. And I've been growing with my Lux before that for about 2 or 3 years. And I only say that because of the technology thing, like I mentioned earlier. Those were the most like quality LEDs, I would say, from the previous things. And more going actually for the appropriate spectrum for cannabis, targeting that I should say. But I don't know, maybe I should be more open to trying to mix all of them. I'm not sure how realistic this is, but maybe it's a possibility. The one thing I will also point out that LEDs are much better than a lot of this shit is because you don't actually have an intake and an exhaust, or like you're not exhausting the heat from your lights, or you don't have all this ducting between all your shit. That was one thing that was a complete pain in the ass to clean, or it would just get completely neglected, and maybe that's why russet mites exist. Just kidding. But the LEDs are a lot easier in comparison. I just wish it was like way easier though. I'm just like, I want to take all these lighting guys, honestly, and be like, you work here for a week and you do it all. I'm just like, you adjust the lights and do all of the things. And you tell me that your pamphlet is exactly what it says. Oh, this silent one. Gosh, hit that live chat, not the top chat. Wesley Pipes, you guys are fucking awesome. Thank you so much. I know it's really hard for me to get likes on the show. And I really appreciate you guys saying that because maybe you guys just don't like it. But I think it does really, really help me. And I think that was so sweet of you to say. Is both of you guys. What about Wesley? I know, fuck, you're right. Wesley did have to get me back on here. Or get me into the right fucking spot. Sorry, Wesley. Keep me on check like this. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Mr. Leal. Far red is the new hype. Yeah, you're right. You are right. I just want more data. I'm going to just leave that right there for that part. Roy Gardner. So good to see you. Arizona Grows. So good to see you. Oh. Fall Dog. Gosh, my favorite peeps. Yes. I'm saying you guys are all my favorite in the chat, and I really mean it. Oh. Cheers, Ma. Hope all is well. Cheers, plant people. Thank you, DP710. We got to get you on the show. We got to get you on the Treat Show. I want to interview you. Let's see. Yeah, I love that you guys are friends too. It's like my favorite part. Username. I think Tropical Seeds Co. has disappeared. Their website shut down. That is weird. Now that is weird. I wonder, there's been a lot of like bullshit that we went through with like merchant accounts and things like that this year is, and on some of these websites like where people, I don't know, people are assholes and or whatever gets caught up in something is, I wonder if maybe they ran into a situation like that or if it actually is squirrely. The market is squirrely, but I also think probably the market's only squirrely because the economy is squirrely. And I think once we get through all that, it's all good again. Let's see. Keeper's Garden sounds like an expensive aquarium. Aquaponics, gang. Oh, see. Aquaponics, absolutely awesome. Absolutely incredible system. I personally, it's too much work, DP. It's too much work, but I love it. You're going to be like, it's not even that much work. I'm going to be like, DP, show me the ways. Oh, Robert, Mr. Greenfingers. Oh, you know. Good stuff. Your good stuff. These even better stuff. Joseph Anthony. Guys, it's making my week. Making my decade. Bill Sid, Soil Brick, Pumice. Gosh, I love all these though. Bear Grows, Denver born and raised, Colorado. Represent hard always. Tell everyone Pink House, Cherry Creek. Riverside. Okay. Fuck yes, Bear Grows. Let me slow this down because you just listed all this shit. First of all, you just brought me back a really quick memory while I was going off about quality shit from the past. So one thing I want to say about Scott and Rare Dankness is the moonshine soil like blend mix of sunshine that he used to have on his forums. He shared it with fucking everybody that was an OG, and it was an incredible mix. I don't know many people that haven't grown with it, that have been growing weed for 10 plus years. Is like, and for those that don't know, Scott, Rare Dankness, that's your dude. That's your dude. But, sorry, there was just a name in here that made me excited. So, Denver born and raised, Colorado represent, hard, always tell everyone. So, Pink House Cherry. We got to throw out Pink House Cherry super hard. And I'm so grateful that you said that. Is the reason that I did my podcast with them is Pink House was fucking huge. And it was the House of Kush in Colorado. And it wasn't huge, like chain huge. It was just the spot that you went to smoke and get fucking good weed. Like, it really, really was. And all these places we're about to list off. So, Cherry Creek, Riverside. Riverside. That was where Scott was at. Riverside, Colorado Springs. Jack Herrera became my uncle when he married. Jenny Hawkins in 2000. Much love. No fucking way. So Jack Herrera is probably one of my favorite strains of all time for my sativa side of life. And I seriously just fucking love it. And everybody gives me shit for it because I love it so much. And yeah. But are you talking about Cherry Creek, Riverside, or Colorado Springs? I'm sorry. I'm only thinking this, or I could be fucking this up because there is Pink House Cherry, and then they had a location in Colorado Springs, but then Riverside location where Scott was at in Denver, fucking just, I don't know, did they have one in the Springs too? And I could be fucking this up both ways. Sorry, Bear Grows. I just love that you absolutely pointed that out and that you're represented, sending the love. That's where I met some of my favorite people I've worked with in the industry was Pink House. It's one job. It's really funny. Is I tried to quit Pink House. This is like funny, and it wasn't we were transitioning as a company. So that's what happened. That's what happened actually. Is so they had got into a situation where they had to make a transition because of a lease and because of things and. It was really sad. It was zoning. It was a zoning situation where Colorado changed the zoning and then there was a moratorium on the state. So you couldn't get a new license. We couldn't transfer our license. And so we literally just got told that everybody was losing their jobs. So there was a lot of people that worked there. There was 90 employees at Megatron, which is their biggest grow and is where all of the main production came out of. And some of the greatest people, I think, still this day, yeah, crushing at that spot. And so nobody wanted to leave. Everybody had worked there for a long time. Nobody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted it to be over. Nobody anticipated that. And one day on our lunch break, I just have to tell everybody that I just got this email that this is a wrap. So they kept a couple of us till the very end, till like taking down all the fixtures. Me and 3 other people were the last people to actually empty out the facility. It was the most devastating time. It really was. It was so sad. Because nobody deserved it. And we had to kill all the weed and we had to kill all of our plants and all these different phases. And we couldn't, it's just sad. Sad. But their weed was fucking awesome. Okay. Let's see. I use broken terracotta shards in the bottoms of my pots. Kelly, you fucking crush. I cannot believe that you came up with that. That is brilliant. Seriously. Kelly, I might have to try your trick. I might have to take you up on this. If you would be willing to let me share your trick, I would really like to try that. I think that is such a great idea. I wonder if I could put the rock wool on the terracotta chips with a little bit of medium around it. It's just awesome, Kelly. Let's see. Highly recommend under canopy lighting from FAVN increase. Well, I'm fucking dumb because I don't even know what that. I'm sorry, Barry. You're on the next level. You gotta dumb it down for me here. Increased yields by 25%. Really? Just your underneath? I mean, that totally makes sense to me because that is where we get these little dark pockets, like I said, and it is like frustrating. I think that now they have quite a few options now. Have you seen Bear Grows? Have you like found if you put too much light, it's too much where they don't like it, those lowers? Or is that really not an issue or something that you're finding? Or do you literally just put, I don't know, like are they individual strips or is it like an actual 4x4 fixture? Like just the normal LEDs? I don't know. Bear Grows, I want to hear more about this. Are there any, sorry, username. Are there any drawbacks to rice hull shells for aeration? So I was just reading something about seashells and I was trying to think with our testing, this is like interesting, but specifically, I don't think for this, your rice, I don't think that this should be an issue if you were doing. I think that's also a really good idea and I can see where that's super appealing. The only thing is rice, because it's a produced product, is like, I don't know though on how they sterilize rice because maybe it doesn't carry through the same. You would just have to be careful that the rice isn't diseased with something systemic. That's so like crazy to think about, but for reals, Fusarium is in so much shit. You just have to be like careful with but if it's just the shell, I think you should be good. I think that's a really good idea too, though, to have that like expansion and then dry back, and then it's also like this soft. Yeah, I bet you couldn't use too much because it would get like too much like sand almost, like too dense. Certain plants though, I bet like certain house plants too would love that. Maybe me and Kim Painter should be trying your rice moves too, if you would be down for that. I should just see. I have to do, I'm sorry, username. Let me come back to this because that really is a great question. And I just was thinking about sometimes we can have testing results come back with things that you would never guess, like kelp is really high in arsenic. And maybe you could guess that, but like there is a lot of like mercury and other compounds that come from these things combining together that you would just be very surprised how much is in soil. The reason that everybody was bitching about testing and not being able to pass their testing is because some of the best soil lines that we were using were failing for heavy metals, when this is like a frustrating thing because you're putting all these things in the plant that the plant needs and desires, but you gotta be careful, like bat guano, all those. you got to be careful with these certain products. I wouldn't say don't use them. I would say extend your flush. Sorry, that has nothing to do with aeration though. I apologize. I think okay. Keeper's Garden, Medic Grow, 1000 watt. I think it's the 301s. Thank you so much. Mr. Greenfingers, is it bad?
Your buffer, I'm gonna restart you.
Oh, dang. Well, we could just call it a night. Been going on and on.
It's so bad you gotta. Oh, just come back on and sign off.
Okay.
Tell everybody you'll be right back.
Guys, technical difficulties. I guess we'll be right back. Fancy setup until you try to use the internet. And then it's like, wah, wah. Okay. Let me just scroll down here a little bit more. I'll stop going off. Gosh, you guys are so. Oh, thank you, Chad Westport, for telling me about the buffering. You are what saved the end. You're cutting out or just me? Yeah, you guys. Sorry about that. I-25 does blow. Pink House will forever be my favorite place. Thanks, Bear Grows. That's like cool to just see you say. I just get excited when people bring up names like that and the reputation that they did. They really love their product. They use the same product line that I talk about. I honestly want to go back to this too. Those that really do want to grow some fire organic weed BioBiz is really expensive. I think a lot of things are really expensive now compared to running my treat salt line like a typical salesperson. But just kidding. There's different things, different reasons why we'd run all these different things as well. But I think that BioBiz makes a really incredible line. The reason I say it's expensive is certain products, Bioheaven is really nice, and the Bioheaven is really expensive to me because it is about $550 for I believe it might be 2-gallon jug. Yeah, they have weird sizes too of certain products. But yeah, and it's a very big line. That's the other thing is I had to kind of steer away from it commercially because it was like $6 or $7 grand to mix reservoirs for a big spot. It just didn't add up at a point. But the time, sometimes it would take like half a day to mix all these rooms reservoirs. But it's something that their product line definitely gives you results of flavor that is absolutely phenomenal though. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because Pink House used BioBiz and they would never disclose that. Obviously, it's been long enough now, but they would never share that information. And even when I was growing for headquarters, honestly, we were placing in any competition that we were competing in, and I wouldn't tell anybody what we used. It was like this secret sauce. And it's just something that I think is worth everybody trying. If you really want something really clean and to not be nervous at all, it is just compost teas essentially. But the shelf life of it is a lot shorter than what you see now. And so that's the only thing that if you don't really plan on using it, it's not something that you should splurge on. But I love it. I'm thinking about running it again. I want to get them on the show. They're like super hard to get a hold of. It's kind of like, I don't know, Canna, some of these companies, they're like so hard. But then they're not actually, BioBiz isn't based out of the United States. So, but yeah, it would be great to have them talk about it. Bear Grows. There was 5 locations in 2012 around Denver, Aurora, Commerce City, Lakewood, etc. I only shopped there, tried everything else. Garden of the Gods, Golden Goat, hundreds on Colfax, Federal, Colorado, etc. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So sorry, Bear Grows. I just misunderstood. Yeah. No, that is awesome. 2012 was one of my favorite years growing in Colorado. Like, ever. it probably forever will be, I guess, is 2010 to 2012 were fucking awesome. 2013, it was still kind of cool. But no, 2012, that's when you saw the best fucking weed ever. That's when I competed. The reason I like get like this sometimes with that is I'll bring the article on the show to read to you guys. Is I competed in a blind connoisseur competition, which was my favorite that I'd ever done still to this day as well. Is they took the best shops and they first of all asked you to compete, and they took these 80 shops and we placed first, third, and something else. And I was so excited because of my competition. Is Pink House was my competition. The clinic was my competition at the time. Rare Dangness, he wasn't Rare Dangness, but he was the Riverside facility. There, like Dark Horse. I just feel there was a lot of competition because the weed was fucking fire. 2012, favorite year. That's when genetics were fucking awesome here too. Is everything was really healthy. I think. What do you think Bear Grows were the best or the most sought after genetics at that time? Is I would say Sour Diesel, Flow, AK-47. Some of those strains were kind of staples for so long. That was like the expensive weed when you were buying whatever. And then it changed in 2012, 2011, I guess, to where we really started seeing things like Girl Scout cookies, Boston Bling, Snoop Dogg, just Thin Mint. Like just, I know that I just listed off like super similar shit, but I guess even like Blue Dream or there's just so many. Strawberry Cough. Some that you started seeing these like diverse menus and really just beautiful stuff. The Kushes were so fucking good then. That's when I had like every Kush you could ever desired and all the chems and all. It's my favorite library too. Keeper's Garden, thanks for telling me as well that I was fucking up and cutting out. God, I'm just all over it. Michelle, you beautiful lady. I was so excited to see you. I was wondering if I was going to see you tonight. Must be that Denver connection. Yeah. It's just like that I-25 connection. You are right. It's the shittiest highway ever. Can't even move on it. People be like, Jay, why does it take you 2 hours to go 7 miles? I'm like, fucking Denver, I-25. There's always a car accident. There's always something. Terracotta Shards is my granny's trick. Oh, Kelly. I can't mess with it then. But do I love you and your garden or your grandma's, your gams, green thumbs? I feel like that's pretty awesome. Hard for that telegram signal in the mountains, eh? But Swan, that's hilarious. Let's see. When I hear yields increased by, I always wonder, do they mean cannabinoid yield or do they mean biomass? Well, Chad Westport, let's talk about both. I really should specify that. But the truth is it is both. Is when I see that your biomass of your plant is dramatically reduced overall, that's concerning to me, right? Like, I know everybody wants to grow for the best quality and the best everything. But the truth is we also grow for money. And it's like, this needs to yield this much for this to be cost effective or something that I can even truly profit on versus like, you can't really gamble or hope that, like, oh, maybe this room will dump. It's like, yeah, we always want the room to dump. But it's like, but there has to be this lowest for your cost, right? For your cost. Like the plant needs to biomass. So then if I think overall cannabinoids and overall potency from your cannabinoid content, when you see that declining though, that's what's more concerning to me. Absolutely. Is I'm like, why is Why is this happening? And like I said, the only reason I believe this is I believe that your potency overall is a reflection of your plant's health. And it's so important to have a healthy plant. Eating, drinking, sleeping, it's gotta be good all the way around. I don't know. But yeah, Chad Westport, I'll speak more technical. I'll do it. Big Farm A. Yep, my leaves are trying to top flip over at bottom. Gosh. Yes, Big Farm. Yes, I saw that grow lights on the understory of the plants makes for bigger yields. Oh, Michelle. Kelly, she controlled controlled moisture with pot layers. She'd add gravel or brick or a layer of eggshells. I love that. That's a good thing for calcium too, depending on the pot size and the plant needs. Gosh, she was a real magical green thumb, huh, Kelly? She sounds like it. Those really are. That's when you're really just brainstorming all the time. When you see how much around us is constantly thriving. Sometimes when people question irrigation with me, or they're like, this is stupid, or this isn't unhealthy for your plant, or this isn't good, I'm like, yeah, I can agree with if there's stuff going on with it that's not making it work right, yes, I can see that. But when you look at nature and you see these weird slopes of mountains and trees growing off of the mountain, and when you see plants that are attached to, any form of water or just a lot of high moisture content, right? It's usually they're pretty vigorous versus if you go to really dry climates and you start looking at how things grow in really dry climates and the desert, and if they haven't had any moisture, how maybe it rains a shit ton, but nothing actually gets retained. And when you start seeing how water actually dries and how you're controlling the drying of this plant, it's weird to me sometimes because I think people mistake that a commercial cultivator doesn't care about their plant, in a sensitive way or a kind way, that they're just this is money. And it's I don't think that at all. I think the more obsessed you get with it over time and watching these strains and watching your buildings and how they are challenging or how they're easy or how I don't know, I just think now it would be so hard for me to grow in one straightforward black and white fashion for everything after just seeing there's so many ways to do this that you can constantly improve and evolve. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'll just stop there. I think that the Wesley Pipes underlighting is new. Yes. See, Wesley Pipes, this is one of those things that I'm all for, but I'm just curious. Okay, anytime this new shit happens, period. You get new lights, you get all of it, you get a new grow, you get all the, it's the first year is fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. Everything's clean, everything's new, and it's working. But then it's as time progresses, usually shit stops working. And usually there are these problems that come up. I don't, just from my experience, and maybe I'm being a Debbie Downer and maybe I'm being a negative Nancy, I think that I am always down to try this. This does make sense to me. I feel as though we've dabbled with lighting things like this on the sides, but not at all what they're doing nowadays, with directly mounted strips or fixtures. But I want to know how this strains, because the way a plant actually eats, this is my only concern with that, is the tops of the leaves, because they're transpiring and because of the way they actually breathe and because of the way photosynthesis works and the penetration of the leaf itself and these layers and levels that the light and spectrum is penetrating through, the only thing that scares me, and this may sound stupid to people as well, but when you're going underneath and you're putting this frequency on the underside of its skin, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be. I obviously really actually don't know. This could go really well, or I don't know if hormonally and some of these growth things, maybe if you took away some of the lighting from the top, it would be better than just blasting them both. Or maybe it is perfect. Maybe they do just thrive and they're like, yes, I've always wanted light like this. But I'm just curious on how their actual breathing, sweating, the humidity and dew points, just like on how it actually, are they going to burn? Are they not going to burn? Is it too much? Is it what is enough? I don't know. I got to try it. You guys got to tell me about it too. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Big Farm. Sorry. Oh, wait. Username. Let's do this one first. Trying for a change is an alternative to perlite. But yeah, things work all right now. Don't want to fudge it up. Yeah, that's... The perlite, it just gets expensive. You know, when you're adding perlite to the things, and sometimes the perlite quality is inconsistent as well. That's why I was just like, at a point, I was just like, eh. But the thing is, I really feel as though you should see if your space, like if it is working great now and you're like, why should I switch this? Is if you don't want it to settle as much, is I wonder if you really did try a different type of cocoa or a cocoa with something else, like even like rock wool pieces, or if you were open to trying rock wool, like a smaller block instead of like a 4-inch or a 6-inch is just like the 2-inch clone block into your medium. That sounds weird, but I wonder if that would be enough air-ish for you instead of having to do the perlite as well. Tell me what you're working with. Tell me what you're working with. Username. What's your soil? What's your company? Is it your blend? Is it not soil? Big Farm. Not true. Shrimp are okay. Thin shell. Not as long a soak. Ooh. I like that. So shrimp are okay. Thin shell. I see what you're saying. So it's not going to hold any of this shenanigans. Yeah, you're right though. Instead of a hard shell. And that's why you're saying as long as they don't soak. Is that correct, Big Farm? I'm sorry if I just completely annihilated that, because I'm so grateful that you responded to that. I was even thinking about showing the testing results. I could bring on like specific products and maybe specific things from the past that I was just so surprised. And now it's made me so not nervous, but just curious of a lot of different things that we put into our plants, especially when I'm growing completely organic or trying to grow as organic as possible. It's just a strange thing that all of these things are living as well. The reason I say this is cocoa is obviously from trees, and so palm trees, and so coconuts. So when you look at a palm tree though, they're exposed to all these elements and they have high salt levels that they're being exposed to, and high winds and just insects, all these other things. And I know that they're sterilizing the coconut, but just like our weed is like, this is the fruit of the aftermath of all of these other things that it's been exposed to and fed and living and breathing under, right? So cocoa can come fucked up. And the reason that I promote Canna so much and trust Canna so much as my cocoa go-to is it's always been a little bit more expensive. I'll be honest, it's kind of frustrating, but it is worth it. It's been one product that's consistently washed. It is charged, but it's such a low, it's a very low EC. And it just makes me feel better throughout like it's been longer than 10 years, but to really see it like consistently have no problems versus I've used other cocoa lines that it does have problems. And Andrew's mentioned before is he actually worked at a really large facility here, and that they were testing different batches of cocoa as well, and they would find Fusarium pretty often in the cocoa. Is it just, I don't know, now it's just made me nervous with all this other shit. So I'm just like, what do you eat? And how do you breathe? And where do you poop? Mr. Lil, good now. Oh, lobster and crab. No, no. Yeah, Big Farm. I'm glad that you said that, though. That's a good, simple, awesome. Thank you. Wesley Pipes, kelp is fine if source correct. You're right as well. That's the thing with almost everything. Like, and I'm glad, Wesley, that you said that, though, is it does depend on where you source it. I get really upset sometimes when people like bash on me using a powdered nutrient mix and really pushing this line because it is sourced as a really clean line. The reason I use it is it's the most clean, organic, capsulated line I've ever been able to use or find. It's as close as you can possibly get by still having just preservation of your actual product and keeping it alive, like keeping it good, just keeping it good, you know, versus if I was using a pre-bottled nutrients or I just don't trust it the same. But I do believe if you're finding clean sources and you know that they truly value that, there is a lot of lines that I mess with because they are those companies. BioBiz, like I was saying, Canna. These are people that you're like, okay, they really care about what this is in. Jeremy from Build a Soil is, I know that all of those, like, that is probably a great source for kelp. You're absolutely correct. It's just that you have to go the extra mile, I think, to actually find where these products are being sourced versus some people will kind of just skip, I don't know, the good side of the ocean. That's what I'm talking about, Big Farm. Is the sodium in the sea product solution to pollution is dilution? Oh, Big Farm, you're fucking awesome. Hey, how long does anyone run silica? That's a cool question, Big Farm. I'll let everybody say their piece before I say my piece. Monopotassium phosphate, though, I will say is something that if you run a little bit higher, you got to be careful with this as well, but just a little bit higher of monopotassium phosphate later in flower, it's kind of like the flip of things, is if you increase it, say, week 3 on to week 6, 7, I run it as well in my veg, sorry, clarification, but at a really low level, it's really good as a silica replacement if you're not into, or if you're not using silica at all. Sorry, not even into. Cookies breaks my heart. Mid-flower too. Yeah, Chad Westport. I know. Wesley Pipes, cut it out mid-flower. That's just so funny. It is like cookies. It's just funny that you say that. I have to pass it like every day almost, and it blows my mind because Diego Pellicer and Cookies like used to be affiliated really tightly. Maybe they still are, but they definitely don't look like what they introduced themselves as. And Diego Pellicer, it was listed for sale years ago, and I don't know. I remember at one point, this isn't like anything that you should hold to something, but I remember it was listed for like $20 million, and it was the most expensive high-end place. And I went there one time and took an investor, and honestly, their quality of weed, I'm just going to say that their customer service was phenomenal. The store was beautiful, all those things, but the quality of weed was definitely not what I was anticipating, and it was expensive. Yeah, Cookies, it was the same experience. Cookies parking lot used to be like super busy. I drive by it all the time, and there's not one car there. I'm like, is it open? Like, I really don't know. But it is weird to think that the first time I went to Cookies, I bought an ounce for $550. I think it was after tax. And it wasn't 710. It wasn't like some of these other companies that you hear us saying these price points, but it was like not good. I remember wanting to actually return my weed for the first time in my life and just be like, dude, I'm not paying this much for shitty weed. And no, I did. And I smoked it just fine. Oh, what is on my face? Sorry, you guys gotta tell me. Chad Westport, I always enjoy your thoughts, JLo. Thanks for tackling the topic. Chad Westport, you mean so much to me, for reals. I'm sorry that sometimes I wish I would slow down on responding better, because the things that you actually point out, Chad, Wesley, you guys are pointing out things that if I ever come back and I like say too quickly a response, like where it doesn't sound like I'm saying this, like advocating for this side, or I don't even know how to describe it. Is I want you to always know is I appreciate everything that you're putting out, because you guys have the most valuable information that when I'm talking about myself and going on these rants it is really nice to have you bring up particular things. And sometimes I get sloppy when I get high, and I need to break this habit. Not sometimes do I get sloppy. I need to step my game up. Maybe I should have. I smoked a blunt. I smoked a backwood before I did, like before when I was getting ready. I smoked a backwood, and then I smoked a backwood when we started the show. And then this is my poor little backwood. That's not doing so good right now. But I should have probably like skipped one of my backwoods. Oh, let's see. Rooted leaf is dope too. Back in the day, dank weed. Yeah, see, that's why I wish that everybody could have experienced it. And I mean this genuinely, is we've gotten such a hard time. Everybody came to Colorado from fucking everywhere, used and sucked up. I only say this to the real a-holes in this, okay? It's not the cool people that came to Colorado to do magical things. It's everybody came to Colorado to get into weed, and they just came talking shit. They just annihilated the state's quality, and then they just pieced out with their shitty experience to go fuck up another person's state. And I'm just like, you guys are the fucking problem, because Colorado had fireweed before everybody showed up. Straight the fuck up. And I remember medical only days. I was in it the entire time from the moment it started in Colorado, so nobody could dispute me on this. I feel like it was so hard to find bad weed. I'm saying from the guys that really were trying, and it was just everywhere. I feel like it really was. And nobody talked about weed the way that they did. Nobody even like competed. Even these competitions, like I said, it wasn't like, oh, is it rigged? Or, oh, did they do whatever? It was like, no, people genuinely loved smoking each other's weed. And it was like, you give me your strain, I give you my strain. Not give it to you, like I'll give you my flower. Like that's how we used to grow and respect each other's space and stuff and quality. Now everybody's like, let's just grow the same shit. Post it on Instagram. Call it awesome. I'm like, no, it used to actually be awesome. And now people harvest weed earlier and manipulate. See, this is why, Chad Westport, when you say this biomass and cannabinoids for reals, is these people have manipulated this so much in this market where they harvest early because their plants have fusarium and they know they have fusarium, or maybe they don't know it's technically fusarium, but they know their plants are going to die after week 6. So they start harvesting out week 5 and week 6, and they never would tell anybody that, but then they'll say it's for hash or it's from all these things. But the truth is that these trichomes and these obstacles, they don't want to battle. They're like, okay, we can't treat the room after this. We can't get PM. We can't get bugs. We can't get fusarium to flare. We can't lose this crop. So let's just take it when the heads are as white as they're possibly going to look. We're going to take the potency that we've had saved forever, and we're just going to put it on the bottle and call it a wrap. And it's like, none of us would have done that shit back in the day. Like, I'm not saying that we didn't have shit happen. There is shit. I will tell you one secret. It's not even a secret. Is just like everybody. Is Pink House. We got spider mites. And the reason I want to use them is because Pink House does have a solid ass reputation. And they are a quality, incredible store. And it was expensive. It was like $100 an eighth. I think you could probably get cheaper. I don't know. It's expensive. And the thing is we got spider mites. We got spider mites one summer. It was fucking awful. And we went through and we threw away all of our fucking weed. We like had to throw away the weed because we were like, we can't sell this. And it's devastating. It's absolutely an expensive loss. It's an absolutely heartbreaking moment. You definitely don't want to go telling your friends. And it's just an awful feeling. But it's like, that's when people really care about quality. When you see all this other shady shit, and most of the time, it's the guys that people praise the most online that are in the back, like spraying their shit with Zerotol to take off whatever, rinsing it in a bucket of God knows what, and then drying it or microwaving it or just crazy shit. Just crazy shit used to happen. And people would be like, oh, that guy's got the fire. You're like, awesome. And then you show them your way and they're like, no. Like, sweet. Just kidding. Big farm. My 91 has me somewhat concerned. I moved it to the bad tent and it is coming around. No experience with it, so I don't know. Big farm, I am so grateful that you had the courage to say this for reals. I just need to take a drink real quick. To say this, Big farm, because this happens to everybody. And it's so tough and so hard when it does. First of all, we have two options here. Is if you DM me on Instagram, I can help you and really help you. But I feel as though, or you can email it to you. But the thing is once you see her getting a little sad, is before she is dabbling with like really not being able to make it, or maybe it progresses, or maybe something else starts affecting it a little bit, is I would try to take a clone like as soon as you can. And even if you could only take one, and let's say we're going to keep her around still as long as you can in this process. So if you take one clone of her in the rock wool, because you're not going to run this first cutting off of your 91, in theory, you're just going to use this as a replacement, Mom, that's healthier, is you should take a smaller rock wool block instead of using like an 1.5 inch or a 2-inch rock wool cube. But you should use a rock wool cube that's wrapped. And the reason I say that is because you need the firmness of the wrapping to make sure this stays completely straight and perfect during this process. Sounds weird, but it's very important. But you don't need the size that you would get in the yield increase in flour potentially from having an 1.5 inch size rock wool cube or bigger. And so you don't need that. You're not going to keep this around long. We just need her to root fast. So if you use an 1-inch rock wool cube that's wrapped though, and the reason I specifically say wrapped is they have them not wrapped, but use wrapped. And if you take, and I know this is bad, but I would try to take clones that you can throw away. And I only say this because you're going to need other plants, other clones to keep your humidity up in your dome, but they're going to have a chance of getting sick. So you probably don't want to use them. So this is just what I would do is I would take your rock wool block and I would soak it in whatever your feed solution is. If you can add hydrogen peroxide to your feed solution. If you can't, I would ask somebody to use like a little bit of their salt or something, or I can send you seriously like a treat thing of the salt mix to try this, is because if you keep it sterile, it's just a key component for this particular issue is you put the H2O2 in there, you soak your rock wool block, and you're only going to do it for like, let's just say 5 minutes to be safe. You take it out, you cut your base of your clone. You know how to clone, I'm sure, but if you cut your base, everybody says like a 90-degree angle is a good angle. I would just give it a soft angle. I wouldn't use a razor blade when you do this because you don't want to damage the stalk at all or the phylum of the plant. Like you really don't during this time, because when you go to stab it in here, there's just, when your plant's battling some of these things, you can't have that stalk get altered or any of the tissues of the plant get damaged. So the more gentle that you can be through this process, the better. Just use a sharp pair of scissors, cut it once, and then flip the block over and to make sure it's firm in there, and don't use the pre-existing hole, and slowly like put your hand under the block with your pinky or something where you can feel the stalk not go through, because if the stalk goes through, you do have to recut it. And this particular plant's probably not going to like it the first time, so you probably have to take a new clone. So just make sure that your finger is holding so you feel it not puncture through. Only press it in really slow, but press it in where maybe you have like a quarter of the block left, like where it's almost like, I guess, further than a halfway point, but not quite past that, but where it's firm. And you can put it in the corner, you can put it wherever you want on the block, but put it in there. And I would put it with, I know this is annoying, but I would at least put 10 other clones of doing the same thing at least in the dome. and use the same salt water, like your same mix, same sterile water. Put them in there and then close your dome and keep your dome closed for 7 days. And they're going to be thirsty. On that 7th day, they're going to be really thirsty. So if you take them out and you water them, don't leave any residual water in there because you're not really going to have super roots coming out. You'll probably have some rooting, but it's going to be so light that Rockwool's not forgiving during this process. So if you really just like, I'll take out a picture of the water so I'm not contaminating my bucket or something, and I'll just put my clones in a little pitcher and water everything, soak it all the way, and then put it back in the tray instead of pouring it over my tray. You can pour it over your clone tray after you harden them off. And I would slowly harden this plant off. I would do it as slow as possible. I would keep the humidity, so even if it gets funky, this is weird, but it probably won't because you have hydrogen peroxide in there. I'll tell you exactly. You can use 3 mils per gallon. If you have a little issue like this, you can go all the way up to 5 milliliters per gallon. It's totally fine. If 34 or 36% hydrogen peroxide. And if you do this though, and you keep it in the sealed dome, even if it starts showing like a little fuzz or it gets a little weird, don't panic. Just wait until she's completely hardened off and then dunk your whole clone in the feed. Like give her a little waddle off, soft, and let it dry completely. And then we could do a treatment in like 3 or 4 days to follow. That would help. So then what you're going to do after that treatment is you're going to take a new clone off of that clone and you're going to repeat this whole entire cycle. But instead of waiting for that clone to get able to take multiple clones off of it, you're not going to do that. You're only going to wait for its first shoot of its newest growth at the most optimal time. So this is weird too. Don't do it too fast off of it where you'll dud out the other plant. I would wait 10 days, but I probably wouldn't wait much longer after that. And I would just take that and then repeat the cycle. And you could probably use the next cutting and she'd be in a lot better condition. If you really want to get crazy and you want to really, really make sure the issue is resolved, we can do a couple different treatments and do this 3 or 4 times. You can go up to 7 times if you really, it's just, I'm being realistic, is you probably 3 or 4 times she's obviously a very old and impressive lady. So because you're going to keep her around, I would probably shoot for at least 3 times so you can really know that she's probably good to go. I don't know if that helped or just made it more confusing. My husband loves sour diesel. It's so gassy. It lasts him a long time. That is so cool, Michelle Barnhill. Sour diesel is just a good classic. I'll have to keep that in mind and note to self and let Jason know, because I feel like my man just wants Skittles. That's all he wants. Skittles and Rainbow Belts. We do have a room, though, that we are harvesting. I just harvested it today. I can't believe I forgot this. I did harvest the room, and it's sour diesel and GMO. I was going to post pictures, but I promised Gerhard I would send him, and I was like, I got to send it to Gerhard first. These, let's see. Wesley pipes. The heads weigh the most. The resin heads outweigh the biomass. Oh, see, I love Wesley. See, Wesley, I would just love the 91 is a needy girl. That's so true. I would love, Wesley, for you to come on this show, though. You're very knowledgeable. You have, awesome. I love it. I think your input, your questions, your comments, fucking awesome. VW, so good to see you, VW. It's been too long. Way too long. I am stoked you are in the chat, and I love that you say inquiring minds want to know. That's really sweet. I forgot. I have 3 of Jason's Bruce Banner Femmes going. Week 3, looking killer. Fuck. Yes, Test Nugs. Thank you so much. I think Jason's going to be so excited to hear that, because week 3, too, this is when it's going to get exciting for your BB3s. I can't wait to see your babies. You should send us pictures. Let's see. All right, guys. Well, I'm probably going to let you guys get some rest. I'm probably going to let you guys have hung out with me for so long. I'm sorry that I always go off on these things. My blunt will not fucking stay lit. You know what? Every time I try to roll it backwood without being by the sink, I even have my paper towel over here and everything. It's just, It won't work for me. I'm gonna have to pre-roll my backwoods. It's annoying. Anyways, I hope that you guys have the most beautiful week this week. Jeez. And I really, really do mean it. You guys feel free to comment though. I would really appreciate your comments, even if you put that you want us to pray for you, or you need a friend, or fuck off, like whatever it is it would be awesome. Those that do comment on the shows, I really wait like a little child waiting for Christmas. I wait a couple days to even open it, and then I'm like, woo, and it's so exciting. So thank you for that. And if I don't, sometimes I'll like them, and it's because I'm working, or so, like I'm saying, like I'm trying to take like a minute, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta go do this. But don't think I'm not gonna get back to you. You might just get surprised, okay? Sometimes I'm like a little peeper messenger. It might take a minute, but I see you, and I'm getting to you, okay? So, yep, and I love you guys, and yeah, peace and love. It's not gonna fucking work. Goddamn tech. Sorry, I didn't mean that. It's just been a rough tech. So because you guys heard the intro song on repeat, and the deck just hates me. Dun, 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 dun.